Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Museum Show and Tell Show. My name's Nicole, and I'm from the Penetanguishene Museum, and I'm here with Genevieve from the Haroni Museum.
Hello, hello.
So, in today's episode, I asked if you could find an artifact that kind of helps with the collection or curatorial tool that you use all the time, maybe taking everybody behind the scenes when it comes to work in the museum. And because I challenged you, I get to go first. And the object that I have picked is actually behind me right here. And it's called a Lightbox. And it comes flat in this little bag here. As you can see, we store it away. And what we use this for is, if anybody knows anything about photography, we use it for taking pictures of our artifacts. And we actually have different backgrounds that we can use, and they're an attachment we put in the back here. And we have blue and gray and white. And then the green is also for a green screen if you want any kind of special effects. And we usually use this, and we call it a light box because you put light around it to really light up the artifact to take pictures. Because I don't know if people realize this about museums, but we take photos of all of our artifacts. And we have thousands. So I think right now we have 12,000 pictures of our artifacts in our collection. And this is something that maybe a lot of people don't realize is part of, the process when something comes into the collection, that we know and document every single, whether it's tiny or a very large artifact that we have here. And this is one of our tools that we like to use. And we kind of set up our own little room in our basement, our little photography room, our little artifact preparation area when it comes to taking pictures. But like most museums, we are very limited in our space. So we can't have a permanent spot somewhere. We would love to for this, but we generally just have it set up, and then we take a lot of photographs. Usually that's one thing that's great when we have some students that can help us with that, people that are really good at photography that come in and help us with that. And that's what we really like about this particular tool, is because you can just put it away in a little bag and put it off to the side, and then move your light somewhere, and then when you want to set up your temporary studio for taking all of the artifacts, you can. Now, obviously, this is just for objects that can fit in here, for smaller objects, but it's quite large in there. And as I said, you usually put about 2 big lights on either side of it, and it really equals out the lighting for your artifacts. This thing here can be taken off if you want, if you need a bigger space. And we do have a nice camera and that we use in the spot, but sometimes you want just a little tiny crack for peering in your lens to take your photographs because of the light that you have for that day. So that is my, sort of behind the scenes artifact that we have here at the museum. So
that's amazing.
Do you have anything like this, or?
No. Oh. No, not a light box.
Yeah.
No.
We were lucky that we got a lot of stuff through a grant, and that's another thing. Museums really utilize money through grants to get a lot of the collections management stuff. So one year we applied and we got the light box, we got the lights, we got the fancy DSLR, camera, a nice stand and everything. So, and love it and use it all the time.
Oh, it's really integral. Yeah. The photograph is really amazing addition to, no matter how well you describe something, sometimes you do need that all the time. You do need a photograph to distinguish one object from another, because sometimes distinguishing one plane from another is quite difficult until you see the photograph and you go, okay, I can see the differences between those two objects right there.
Especially when you're trying to figure out different exhibits, it's really great to have those photographs taken, so you're not constantly in your collection touching your artifacts to try to get what you want. You can take a look at everything in photo form. Oh, this is what I want. Okay, this is where it's located. I'll go and I'll get that one, rather than looking through all of them that you have. It's great for that. It's also great for, insurance purposes. The fact that we, they say even in household, you should have like pictures of all the, everything you have. A lot of people don't, but for museums, we do have, a collection, and we store it on our server so that it's not just like on site either for photos. So what do you have for us today, Genevieve?
I am going to talk about a different aspect of collections management, and I want you to think about your everyday life and all of the different sorts of objects that you come into contact with. So you've got your bed sheets, your toothpaste, the dishes that or the pots and pans and all the utensils you use to cook your food, the dishes you serve them on, your car, all the objects that you use at work. I mean, any recreational item that you use in your spare time, whether it's in, a musical instrument, baseball gloves, knitting needles, that kind of thing. You can imagine the thousands and thousands of artifacts that I guess a museum has the potential to have in its collection, just that huge scope to represent the everyday life in a community, or to represent specific aspects of the community. And so I brought in a book here. This is an old book. We don't use this anymore, but it represents what we use is actually online, and it's not very interesting to look at. So what I've brought in is the Parks Canada classification system that was developed for classifying and naming historical collections, so objects that are man-made, and for the most part it only describes things that are in use in North America. So just like in science, you've got chemicals or plants that are grouped and categorized by family, in genus, and species. This classification system that we use, nomenclature 4.0, will classify objects and give them a very consistent and accurate and very concise way of classifying them, whether it's the term that is used for an object. So, I mean, if you think too about the way you yourself talk about things, I will use interchangeably the word flipper and spatula for one object, but really those are two very different objects. So my boys and my husband, for instance, they'll call this a dress, but they'll also call a blouse and a skirt. They'll use the term dress for that too. They can't tell one from another. So what this classification, yeah, I know. But then at the same time, I would call a car, any kind of vehicle as an automobile, any kind of truck, I will call a car too, anything that you can use to get from one place to another. And they find that absolutely abhorrent. They can, give me the details. So this will allow you and me to talk to each other, and I can talk to a museum in another country even, and we will all be talking about the same kind of object. So these objects, every object in this nomenclature system actually uses 14,624 terms, and it's continually being updated, whereas this Parks Canada classification system uses about 6,504 terms. So you can see just the broad range of artifacts that we have or the terms, I guess, that we've got at our fingertips. And it's just wonderful for dividing and classifying and naming objects. So what it does is it takes all the objects you can possibly think of, and well, at the moment, and it divides them into 10 categories. So you've got built environment objects, you've got structures, you've got furnishings, personal objects, tools and equipment for materials, tools and equipment for science and technology, tools and equipment for communication, distribution and transportation objects, communication objects, recreational objects, and then finally unclassifiable objects. So every artifact you can think of is divided by or separated from each other by their function. The most, I'd say probably almost all of the artifacts that we've, not almost all, but the bulk of the artifacts in our collection are documentary in nature. And even documentary artifacts, there's 10 different sort of subheadings. So you've got records that are administrative, others that are declaratory, financial records, government records, graphic documents, instructional documents, legal documents, literary works, memorabilia, other documents, and that's it. So that describes pretty much the full range of objects. And then within each of those classifications, I guess those subheadings, you've got things like ballots and bylaws, constitutions, press kits, receipts, budgets, bank books, laws or customs records, and it just goes on and on and on. Any kind of record you can possibly think of will have a term for it, and that allows for proper classification and well, like I'd said, yeah, really consistency, which is really important in creating a database or managing a collection of objects. I think we have almost 100,000 different objects in our collection, and yeah, it certainly helps to manage or to organize the objects by name and by function. It's really exciting. I haven't done it at home yet. I think I might one day, but it's yeah, it's kind of fun. So that's and it's a really important, and it probably takes a good portion, like the photography, it takes a lot of a good portion, I guess, of your day, the appropriate and proper processing of artifacts. So we really just don't take all the artifacts and then put them in a box and put them on the shelf until they get used. It's, yeah, just one of the many processes that artifacts undergo here at a museum.
It's funny because that was one of the other objects that I was thinking about.
Was it?
Showing us that book, because that particular book, yeah, was definitely something. It's, if you work in curatorial studies, like, it's on your desk no matter what. Like, yeah, not now. I don't look at it. When I first started, that was, you know, the book that you're always in, because same with you, like, it's already pre-populated within our collections management system, like the different classes. And the more you work with the collection, the more you know, you're very, you know right away where the classification is. But if you have somebody that you're training them, that's the first book you show them, and they're like, oh, because I think it's something that a lot of people don't realize, that we do. There's actually a companion piece to that. I don't know if you ever had it. It's orange, and the first book was just the first 3 major categories, and it actually gave a little bit more of a description, and in some cases like a drawing of what that was, because even for us, like, there's so many terminologies, and the differences sometimes we don't even know the differences for, like, the older, you know, the older names and the older artifacts. Yes. So sometimes we don't know everything, right? Like, it's kind of shocking.
That's right.
We need help
right now
sometimes.
I'm working on a collection of material from post offices, and I've got what is the difference between a date stamp and a postmark stamp, and the different kinds of stamps that would be used. Cancellation stamps, are they the same thing? The terms are sometimes used interchangeably, but technically, as a museum object, what is the difference? And yeah, these or
Different
you know,
styles of
the
hats
different
and
kinds of
everything.
things. Hats, yes.
Big one. Yeah, knowing the complete difference between them all. Yeah, but yeah, that's just kind of, that's a really, neat object to talk about. I can't believe we have
continually being,
sorry.
Oh, it's continually being updated too. So you get modern things like compact disc cases, different parts of computers, really scientific materials or tools and equipment. So yeah, nuclear equipment. I mean, not that we have that in our collection, but if you do, it allows you. It's not something that everyone knows, you know, the terminology for a lot of technical equipment. So it's really, really helpful. And yeah, we do have over almost 100,000, I think, objects. But I mean, we probably have more in the museum because not all of the archaeological collections have been entered into that database, or they might be entered as a group of, let's say, you know, 6 boxes of artifacts from the Barry site. But and then within that, there might be 100,000 objects.
Yeah, I was going to say you have a lot of archaeological objects, which is a lot. And for us, we actually separate out our archival and our collection, like our artifact collection. And I know not all museums do that. Some of them do. So we do, just because when I start, you know, you basically, whatever your museum was doing, you should just kind of continue on with.
Absolutely.
You know, so when I started here, that's the way it was separated. So that's the way we keep it. And because you don't want to be going back and re-cataloging everything. It's, you know, as long as it's all cataloged in the first place, that's the most important thing.
Absolutely, and you know where to find it.
Yeah, because that's the other thing people might not realize is the amount of, because there's so many processes, like we're just talking about 2 different processes of one thing, which is accessioning an artifact. There's so much more to it. And that's why sometimes there's a backlog when it comes to accessioning things that come in, because it's not, you know, a very simple, you know, process. There's just so many different steps to it for one single, you know, item. And if you have like a teacup and a saucer, well, those are 2 items in one object, you know, so it becomes complicated with that. So, all right, well, that was a great, you know, topic, especially because May is Museum Month. So we want to talk about museums. And what is our theme for next week?
I thought we'd go with a color. So pick something that is associated with the color yellow. So it can be not necessarily the color, but the mood that's created by that color or associations or something like that.
Sounds good. Color yellow for all the sunshine that we're going to have, right?
That's right.
All right, so we'll see everybody again next week for the color yellow, and have a good day. Bye.